implementation of the manifesto commitments that are assigned or that are a responsibility of the Office of the Prime Minister. I want to summarize this very quickly. I have, for those of you who have copies, of about 46 slides, but I will run over some of them. Many of them are examples. So the technology is taking long here. Okay. So the first point I want to make is that our focus is on only three thematic areas. If you are conversant with the manifesto, copies of which I see many of you have, we are reporting on the thematic area of creating jobs and wealth for all Ugandans, ensuring justice and equity, and protecting life and property. So, on slide 5, for those who are following, for all the commitments that are under the responsibility or under the coordination of Office of the Prime Minister, we have been able to complete 83%, which is quite consistent with the overall performance of the commitments of the whole manifesto. And 17% of those commitments, work has started and it's already under implementation. Now I want to start reporting on the specific achievements. The first commitment is on restructuring and strengthening the government systems to synergize efforts, remove duplications, and align under a program approach. So the manifesto observed that there is a lot of duplication in government and there is a lot of overlap, and instructed a number of interventions to improve synergy and coordination. So this is the report. This is what has been done. The first one, as you know, the rationalization of government agencies and public expenditure, famously known as RAPEX, stands at 34 bills enacted out of 40 bills, which reflects about 84%. 63 agencies await to be merged. 33 agencies, the functions have been mainstreamed in the main ministries, and 40 bills were drafted to effect RAPEX. 34 of them were passed by Parliament, and 21 are assented to into law. The remaining 6 bills are still under legislation in Parliament. So, since the projection is up, can I request you to go to slide number 7? For those who are following on the screen. Okay, so in that slide, we summarize. You can see the ones in green, the bar chart, the green bar chart, those are the 21 which have been assented to, and then the rest of the details are provided. Only 1 bill was withdrawn, and 6 bills are pending before Parliament. So you can see there was good progress. In the next slide, we provide details, and I'm not going to read that. For those who are interested in the 21 bills, they are summarized in that slide. And then that is a continuation of the 21 bills. If you want details, then the bills that were referred back and the one that was withdrawn are also provided there. The next commitment was for the Prime Minister's Office to improve monitoring and evaluation of government performance through standard and auxiliary units such as the Directorate of M&E, the Auditor General, the Apex platform, and so on. So I would like to report that we have also a number of indicators which, by our own score and by the score of Director Willis here, this commitment has been implemented. The first thing is all of you participate in what we call the Local Government Management of Service Delivery Assessment. And this is a comprehensive, robust assessment of all local governments. I believe you are all involved. In fact, the RDCs and the chairpersons are key stakeholders in this exercise. And through the youth gift program improvement, from 36% in 2020 to 44% in 2021, to 51%, and now 57%. Of course, we have not yet reached the levels that we want to reach. By our grading system, NS score below 75 is not good enough. But at least we can see that there is a positive trend, and we want to encourage you, the RDCs, to continue to whip and play your roles of monitoring so that the local governments perform. The other is what we call the annual performance review, where we bring together selected local governments, sometimes all the local governments, and the central government ministries. And we do in September every year a comprehensive assessment of how the government is performing. And the President has directed this year that we might have what we and across the value chain from cabinet down to the parish level. We have not fully rolled out this system to the local government, but the rollout is planned to start at the end of this financial year and cross over to the first quarter of next financial year. But what we have done in this system, we now have performance data for each and every local government for the last 5 years. So we can electronically display for you how your local government, how your districts have been performing for the last 5 years. And we are going to enter information for NDP4 based on the district local government development plan and the ministerial policy statements. Now we are hoping that in the future, and it is good the point of the laptops came towards the end of the minister's presentation. We are hoping that in the future, each of you can be assigned the rights to use this system, and you can track the performance of the indicators of your respective local government every time you want to follow them. In other words, we want to have a dashboard for RDCs, and in that dashboard we are restricting you to have access to performance information of all the indicators that you think are a responsibility of the RDC. So if you are the RDC of, let's say, Butambala district, and you want to see the performance of the district on all the sectors, you are given login rights for the system, and you enter and you can access all the information of Butambala as and when you want it. And that can help you to track, but can also help you to summarize your reports to the center. So you don't have to labor to make calls, to visit every facility, but you can actually develop your reports from the system. And what you do, you only visit facilities where you are doing validation and verification. Because remember, a system also relies on the information that is fed. So if the planning unit and the team at the district have entered information, and you have concern over what you want to validate, then you select from the system what you want to validate, and then you generate your performance report from the system. The second achievement was to develop what you are familiar with, I hope, something called the Online Performance Assessment Management System, OPAM, managed through the Ministry of Finance and the Ministry of Local Government, and the Online Transfer Information Management System, OTIM. Now, this system is used to for timely production of assessment reports that facilitate the allocation of indicative planning and budgeting figures for local governments. So these ones inform the resource allocation criteria, and they are very, very useful in terms of deciding who of you gets a little bit more grants than the other. There are a few other interventions. I will now rush through these ones. So OPM also coordinates what they call on-spot checks and supervision visits, and these are similar to what the minister was presenting on the local governments. They visited the facilities, the government projects, and so on. And for the purpose of this presentation, we just highlight a few. For example, the Karuma hydropower plant, where implementation was followed up to ensure that all the attendance issues and shortcomings were addressed, and to ensure that good progress on delivery of the project was done. There was also an issue with the Isimba Dam. For those of you who are aware, we were about to lose that dam because the base was about to be swept away if something was not rectified. And through the monitoring processes, that matter was resolved, fortunately, with a lot of contribution of our own local engineers, and yet the implication that had been given was that it would require a lot of external expertise, which we don't have. Then there are others on the district roads, and these were provided in the minister's report. I will not dwell a lot on that. The other is on the external funded projects. Just last Monday, cabinet approved our latest guidelines for monitoring external funded projects by approving what we call standard operating procedures. And the intention really is to address a problem that has been pointed out here before, that many government projects and interventions are not completed on time. There are a lot of cost revisions on the project. The amount approved for the project is in many times revised by the time that project is completed, and the revisions are sometimes causing government lots of money. But there are also many implementation constraints. If you remember, the presentation of the minister had issues to do with the land acquisition, rights of way, procurement issues, capacity to execute the project, sometimes lack of adequate counterpart funds, and so on. So what has been done is that we have developed standard operating procedures which are going to provide kind of more strict and stringent measures to the government ministries and to local governments in terms of the processes they should follow and the timelines they should adhere to ensure that projects are implemented on time. In the slide 20, we also provide a number of examples of projects that have been monitored under the external funded projects, and where the scores are good as well as where the scores are bad. The other exercise in fulfillment of the commitments on monitoring, coordination, monitoring and evaluation is to do an exercise on abandoned non-functional stalled projects in the country. Mr. Chair and colleagues, we have a problem of many white elephant projects in the country. And these projects are an embarrassment to government, but also a big loss in terms of resources. So what we did, a total of 251 projects from 57 local governments across the country were assessed. And these were the findings. Number one, 44% of the projects had stalled due to limited release of funds to local governments. So this is a problem. The projects are planned for, and the funds that are released are inadequate to complete the project. And really, this is not something that we should allow to go on. The second issue was lack of power supply to some agro-processing facilities. Even the Prime Minister herself has a big grinding mill funded through one of the interventions where power supply is a problem. So there are several projects which are under this category, and we have these reports, by the way, online. We can also share them at request so that you look at some of the projects might be in your district and they are abandoned projects, but you are not aware. So we can share these reports with you. The other reason was a decline in funding to local governments, the grants to local governments, where available funding cannot finance substantive investment. So a decrease in the grant, similar to the first reason. And the other is late release of funds, resulting in non-absorption of funds and the return of funds to a consolidated fund. There is an outcry for a long time from the local government that the Minister of Finance releases the funds too late. And we think that this is something we should have overcome several years ago, but it was provided as one of the explanations for some of the ghost projects, rather white elephant projects, not ghost projects. And then also withdrawing of the funding, like construction of the general ward at Angaya Health Center 3 in Gulu district. There are other examples from the report. Now I'm coming towards the end of my presentation, and that is by presenting the next commitment. So the commitment is around using the parish model, the barazas, to be implemented or scaled up in order to enhance accountability and service delivery. So this baraza initiative is actually an intervention that is implemented by the RDCs. So I don't need to explain. And the district chairpersons, in many cases, they are involved, and I hope they participate in these barazas. So over the period, we have undertaken 83 of them. And also we have undertaken a number of exercises to follow up the implementation of the recommendations. If you recall, for those who have been attending the agricultural shows by the Right Honorable Prime Minister, after every agricultural show, there is a comprehensive report, and some of the serious key policy issues that come out of those barazas are followed up sometimes by ministers, but also sometimes through the RDCs and also through the respective permanent secretaries. From the data we have, the findings from the follow-up meetings indicate that 70% of the issues raised have been prioritized for implementation. So that is something. For a long time, our outcry was that we conduct a baraza, we write a report, and many of you RDCs actually submit your reports also after the baraza, but then what happens next? So we are now following up, and we are seeing that there is action on most of the recommendations after a baraza is conducted. So those are the districts. And for us, we have, by the way, undertaken an impact evaluation of the Baraza initiative. So we know what value it adds in terms of enhancing transparency, improving accountability. Some of you RDCs have been very tough to the extent of arresting victims during or after a Baraza intervention, where there is plain evidence of corruption. We have also confirmed that it contributes to community empowerment and increases the participation of citizens in public service delivery. So the objectives of Barazas are quite largely met. Our challenge is we are not able to conduct enough of them because of course, limited resources. So in the next set of slides, it's just further information about Barazas. Now, as I move towards the conclusion, you will see that a lot of the implementation challenges which are affecting the achievement of the manifesto commitments are very similar to what was presented earlier. Low staffing levels across government departments. I'm not going to highlight that. High UPE dropout rates attributed to a lot of reasons. I think in the PACZ presentation she had even more reasons. Delayed coding, I think the PS addressed that quite a lot. Then the point of unprofessionalism, which includes many things: drunkenness, absenteeism, gross negligence, intentional misconduct, laxity in health service staff, in providing patient care, and so on. This is a very common problem, unprofessionalism. A government asset is in the compound, it is rotting, nobody seems to take any action, and at the end of the day, we lose it. Existence and use of old and obsolete equipment in health facilities, poor maintenance of national and district roads, mismatch between the reported and actual results concerning government interventions, inconsistencies, and so on. We were meeting with the Minister of Health top management last week, and they have a lot of issues around staffing and also deliberate failure of government to provide adequate facilities, even to install very expensive equipment which they have distributed to regional hospitals to improve service delivery. And these are things that we think that should be addressed at the coordination structures within OPM, where we are tabling them. Then the next slide is a summary of some of the Baraza actions that we have implemented, follow-up actions, and in that particular example, OPM directed for the technical investigations on the poor state of Power City schools, and a report was prepared and submitted to Minister of Education, and action taken. The contractor was tasked to explain, and that matter was addressed. And I hope the RDC here can attest to that. Then the other commitment was our focus on the fourth Peace, Recovery and Development Plan, PRDP4, for improving household incomes through promotion of high-value strategic interventions. Now, there are many actions here. You have seen the refinancing of the Atiak Sugar Factory. Of course, the PDM itself, release of funding from the PDM. Then, from Office of the Prime Minister, we have developed the fourth phase of NUSAF for those who are conversant with the Northern Uganda Social Action Fund. The negotiations were held last week, and we are waiting for the World Bank to lift. If you recall, the World Bank stopped approving new projects because of the AHA. I hope you all know the AHA law. Even though we know that the policy has changed globally, but I think there is an official exercise that has to take place, and that restriction for Uganda to have new projects approved is lifted. We also have a follow-up phase of a project called Dr. Deep, Development Response to Displacement Impact for refugee hosting areas. And all those new interventions are indicators under that commitment. Oh, okay. Yes, as clarified by the Minister, because of passing the Anti-Homosexual Sexuality Act, we had some restrictions as Uganda on new projects, new projects from to be funded by credit or grants from the World Bank. But as I was saying, international policy changes or dimensions in global geopolitics now has rendered that irrelevant, but the World Bank has not yet removed that restriction. So we are waiting for the restriction, but the project preparations are going on. And we hope that by the 1st of July, both of those projects should be up and running. So the final commitment that I'm going to speak to is on raising incomes in northern Uganda, Bukedisa region, where you know the poverty statistics are worse compared to any part of the country. In Busoga, in Teso, and Karamoja sub-regions through our affirmative action programs. And the update here is that the National Planning Authority, working of course with the Regional Development Program and the Ministry of Local Government and OPM, has been developing specific regional development plans. So the Karamoja Regional Development Plan is ready for approval, I think. Yes, it's ready for approval. It's already in cabinet, and the others are under development. But in the meantime, the three projects that I've talked about have been prepared, and also government through the recurrent budget has continued to fund livelihood programs in the affirmative action districts. So under the respective ministries, Ministry for Teso Affairs, Ministry for Pinyora Affairs, Ministry for Karamoja Affairs, Northern Uganda, there are specific livelihood programs that have continued to be funded. And in that slide, you can see one of the beneficiaries, and the Minister for Pinyora Affairs engaging beneficiaries of Chibale irrigation scheme, supported under the micro projects to enhance agricultural production and incomes of the beneficiaries. In the next slide, that is the Minister of State for Northern Uganda Affairs, Honorable Kenneth Omona, supporting one of the citizens. But the message here is like the Minister has a number of support programs under the portfolio, which are continued to be supported to support the people in the region. So in terms of the livelihood enhancement programs by OPM, the summary is provided in that slide. 182,294 iron sheets provided to the 6 affirmative action regions in the country, and the breakdown is provided there. Then micro projects supported 1,579 micro projects, and that's how they are distributed according to the different sub-regions. And that is also a continuation. Now I will just run through a few examples. There are several other interventions, and Chair, I'm not going to present this in detail because they are very detailed breakdown of assistance given to civilian veterans, incapacitated civilian veterans, a number of schools provided with iron sheets and other building materials. Then residential houses for families of civilian veterans, for example, in Wakiso, in Mukono, Nakaseke, and in Barara. Then we have classroom blocks constructed in Karamoja region. This is a very important intervention because we have realized an increase in the retention and participation of girl children in Karamoja by providing dormitories and additional classrooms. Then in some of our community health center halls do not have ambulances, so the TESO portfolio, for example, bought an ambulance, and in that picture, that is the ambulance that the minister handed over to Kalaki Health Center 4. These are also other additional classrooms constructed in, this is a dormitory with decals in Napak district. I hope this will help to attract some of the street children who are majorly from Napak district. Then you can see senior government officials there led by the Prime Minister and the ministers on a community mobilization exercise and peace building activity with the Turkana community and Karamoja. Several other construction facilities supported, and finally, yes, classroom facilities, as I stated. So, Chair, I want to conclude by just highlighting the fact that the OPM was responsible for coordinating overall implementation of the commitment, but she also had a set of commitments under its portfolio, which were falling under 3 thematic areas. And by our own assessment, we have implemented those commitments and achieved a rating of about 83%. And we expect that by the end of the period, which will be February next year, the other 17% will have been implemented. I thank you so much for listening and look forward to your feedback. Thank you very much.
What has happened with the voices?